What it do, everybody? Slayer here. So, there's this long-standing tradition where every Naruto Goontuber has to rank the Akatsuki, yada yada yada, you know the drill. So yeah, this is what we're doing today. We are going to be ranking the Akatsuki from weakest to strongest. And yeah, here's how we're going to be doing this. I'll be going over all of the Akatsuki that I could think of. We're not going to be doing people like Kaguya and Madara and, people like that, because honestly, first off, I don't really think they count necessarily. They were never really part of the Akatsuki while the organization was active. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, honestly, it's just going to be kind of boring. You all already know where they're going to be scaling, where they're going to be ranked, so what's the point, right? So yeah, that's the first thing. Second thing, regarding Edo Tenseis, the Edo Tensei versions of the Akatsuki, we're not going to be doing all of them, because honestly, a lot of them are just kind of pointless. Do y'all really care about Edo Sasori? Who cares, right? He's just a objectively worse version of Sasori without any of his puppets. Yeah, what's the point? Same goes for Edo Kakuzu and stuff like that. So we're only going to be doing the versions that have actual tangible differences from their live versions. Yeah, the juicy ones, you know the ones. Also, we're going to be doing Taka, but we're not going to be doing their 5 Kage Summit versions, because honestly by that point they were no longer part of the Akatsuki, so yeah. Finally, each tier is going to have obviously a bunch of characters, so just because a character is rated above another, it doesn't necessarily mean he beats every single character that's below him per se, but it's a very matchup based thing. So it's gonna be one of those things where the character that's rated higher just generally beats more of the characters rated below him, not necessarily all of them, if that makes sense. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this. We're gonna start things off by doing benchmark characters for each tier, so you all kind of get a general sense of what each tier stands for and how I generally scale things. So yeah, starting off with trash tier, we're gonna be putting in my girl Karin. And now, trash tier might sound a bit harsh, but honestly, I feel it's pretty fitting here. Karin is just a classic support character. She doesn't have much offensive abilities or offensive feats, really. Her best feat is surviving a kick from Danzo, which, it's not the worst, but it's not exactly the greatest either. Yeah. So yeah, that's where she's at. Moving on to Jonin level, I know Jonin level sounds a bit broad and vague, but yeah, for the purposes of this tier list, the benchmark is gonna be my boy Hidan. Generally because he scales to people like Asuma and Kakashi, he swapped hands with both of them, so that's where I generally have him. Kage level, I'm gonna slot in the Morbid Ho himself, Orochimaru. Yeah, I feel he just has a lot of scaling to Kage level people, namely Hiruzen, obviously. Also Enma, who is the strongest summon. He has a statement for being the strongest summon, which puts him above characters like, Gamabunta and Manda and stuff like that. So yeah, he has some solid Biju level scaling, I guess, and honestly I feel Biju level is a pretty good little benchmark for Kage level people, generally speaking. So yeah, that's the bare minimum requirement to get into this tier, is you gotta be Biju level or Biju level-ish, if that makes sense. Now moving on to Beyond Kage, and yeah, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but yeah, I'm gonna be putting Itachi here. I think Itachi just pretty much objectively scales above Orochimaru. Not only did he literally beat him on screen twice, but just narratively speaking, this guy Orochimaru has literal PTSD from Itachi. Yeah, I don't really know how you can argue that Orochimaru beats Itachi. It's just not a thing. I'm sorry if that's news to you. Yeah, we're not doing any Orochimaru above Itachi over here, so yeah, that's where Itachi lands. Just narratively, it makes too much sense. It's way too consistent, way too supported. There's a bunch of statements. Just the whole subplot with Sasuke doesn't even make sense if Orochimaru could take on Itachi, which, he provably could not, because he literally lost to him twice on screen. So yeah, I mean, if y'all think Itachi versus Orochimaru is competitive, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, the peak of shinobi kind, I guess, is I guess we gotta put my boy Juubito over here, because yeah, I mean, realistically, I'm not gonna waste too much time on Juubito. Like, y'all know why he's there. He's the strongest for sure. Yeah. So now that we've got all that out of the way, I guess we can start filling out the tiers, and we'll start with trash tier, I guess. I can't. Yeah. So yeah, the next trash entree is gonna be my boy White Zetsu. Like, okay, honestly, the thing about White Zetsu is he has a lot of interesting abilities. Like, he can absorb chakra, he can transform into people, he can merge with the surroundings, he has low-level wood release. Like, yeah, that's a lot of, like, interesting abilities. He probably has some level of regeneration as well, you know, given the Hashirama cell enhancements. So, like, these are solid abilities, I guess. But the thing is, like, when you look at his feats, there's not a lot of, like, great feats, and, like, realistically, the White Zetsu army was, like, being packed up by average Jonin and Chunin from the Shinobi Alliance army. Like, after day one, you had, like, 40,000 Shinobi casualties, and when you look at the White Zetsu casualties, you had 50,000, so, like, yeah. They're just kind of average, honestly. Like, they're not too great. They're not horrible, but, like, I wouldn't put them above any of the people that I'm gonna have above them here. So yeah, like, honestly, I can't in good conscience put him any higher than this. I don't know how I'd do it, to be honest. Yeah, so that's where White Zetsu lands for me, unfortunately. Moving on to Shin Uchiha. I mean, look, he is trash, right? Like, as a character, he's pretty bland and meh. But yeah, that's not what we're doing here. We're power scaling. So yeah, Shin, like, okay, at a bare minimum, he scales to adult Sakura, who, at the very, 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 very least, is like just vaguely Tsunade level, vaguely KCM Naruto level, at the very least, right? Like. So yeah, he should be high, but like, there's also the metas where you scale him to adult Naruto and Sasuke, at least like low-end relativity there. So I guess it really just depends on how you look at things. Personally, I think the Naruto and Sasuke meta is like, because like, yeah, Sasuke was low on chakra, he was, you know, quote-unquote nerfed in that moment, and Naruto was like quote-unquote rusty. So like, yeah, they were like, I guess, caught off guard. They were not at their best, but like, I guess it's just one of those things where it depends on how you view things, how you view the events of Naruto Gaiden. And yeah, I really am not too interested in getting into all that stuff. Shin is just not a very interesting character, and I don't really give a shit about him. So yeah, I'm not gonna get into too much. Like, if y'all feel like he should be here or here, like, sure, you know, you do your thing. It's definitely something you could argue. It's a valid argument, but yeah, I don't care too much about him. He's not even really a real member of the Akatsuki, so yeah, who cares? His high-end metas are like somewhat valid, but yeah. Moving on, we got Juzo Biwa. A lot of you probably not even ever heard of this guy. I can't blame you. He was a member of the Akatsuki. I guess in the anime he was like Itachi's previous member before Kisame pulled up. And yeah, he doesn't have like too many showings, but he was a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, which is obviously very impressive. He was like Zabuza's predecessor. So yeah, like, if we're being generous to him, I guess we could say that he's like somewhat relative to Zabuza, in which case, yeah, I feel like he deserves to be within this general tier of like Kakashi level people. But like, when it comes to him versus Hidan, right, like, Hidan has better scaling, he has better narrative statements as well, just being part of the Neo Akatsuki, I guess, that was tasked with hunting Biju and stuff. So he has better feats than Juzo. And honestly, like, a melee fighter, generally speaking, I feel would struggle heavily against Hidan. Because, like, unless you decapitate him, which is a real possibility, obviously, he is an idiot too, but yeah, he's really hard to permanently put down. And yeah, I think more often than not, Hidan should be above a Zabuza reskin, if you will. Now, there is stuff like silent killing, obviously, and yeah, that is pretty dangerous. He could potentially catch Hidan off guard and like cut his head off, which, yeah, that would do the trick for sure, but in a straight up fight, I do definitely favor Hidan. He has generally better feats, I suppose. So yeah. Moving on, I have got my boy Suigetsu over here. Yeah, I guess this might be surprising to a lot of people, like Suigetsu above Hidan. Yeah, maybe a bit of a hot take, I don't know, but yeah, I think it's a solid one because Suigetsu low-key has a lot of like insane feats. First off, he can swap hands with people like Darui, who's like a super elite Jonin. And honestly, his bag is like really good, man. Like the liquefaction technique, like that really just honestly kind of dashes Hidan's hopes of beating him, because like Hidan is 100% a melee fighter, so like he literally cannot even damage Suigetsu, so it's one of those things. And Suigetsu also has like some low-key crazy feats, I guess. He sort of blocked the hit from A, you know, the fourth Raikage, who was in his lightning armor form. That he like momentarily blocked it. Granted, like A's insane strength was gonna wrench his hand off, but like the sheer initial impact, he sort of like took that a little bit. So like he's honestly like pretty underrated, if I'm being honest, like low key, you know. But yeah, I think just the combination of where he scales and his abilities and his skills, yeah, I think him above Hidan is a pretty safe bet, honestly. Moving on to Juugo. Juugo is interesting too. Yeah, another thing about Suigetsu, honestly, before we move on, he also did okay against Killer B, which is like better than anything Hidan ever did. He doesn't scale to B 1-to-1, obviously, like he's still below him, but like he did do okay. He did block hits from him. He was like decent support to Sasuke when they were like teaming up on him and stuff. So yeah, man, Suigetsu, he has decent scaling. Like I think he can definitely take out Hidan at the very least. Now Juugo, yeah, he's in the same boat as Suigetsu essentially, but like a lot more stupid. And yeah, I mean, he also swapped hands with he swapped hands with Suigetsu. First off, he also had similar-ish feats against Killer B, had similar feats against Darui and stuff, so they essentially scale around the same place, except Juugo still has like his Curse Mark level 2 transformation to like further amp his speed and his AP, and he has those energy beams and stuff, but like honestly, like all that's cool, but like none of it really gets around Suigetsu's liquid form. And like legit, we did see Suigetsu like literally drown Suigetsu in the war arc. So yeah, I think in an actual fight, even though Juugo might have more like raw power or like raw output, I still think Suigetsu would probably edge him out and like take the W there. So yeah, I'm honestly put Suigetsu here. I think it's a pretty safe bet. I mean, they do scale around the same place and all that, but yeah, I think in an actual fight, Suigetsu is more likely to win. He's a lot smarter, a lot more skilled. Jugo's like a bit of a maniac and stuff like that, so yeah. Now, moving on to, I guess, Black and White Zetsu. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Black Zetsu is he has a lot of like weirdly good feats. Like he was able to stalemate, well, supposedly, a KCM Naruto clone and like Mei and Chojuro and stuff like that for like a little bit, but like we never actually saw how the fight went. You know, it was like almost entirely off screen, so I can't like outright scale him to these people, especially when he did like seemingly no damage to them, and like Shoujo literally one-shotted him later. So it's like, yeah, I can't put him much higher off of something so vague, but like it is there, and combine that with his abilities and stuff, and like obviously Black Zetsu's intelligence and like the ability to absorb chakra, the regen, the just how difficult he is to actually kill or put down. Yeah, I'll put him there as like a sort of yeah, he should be generally in this area, but I don't think he has enough juice for me to put him any higher. So yeah, moving on, I suppose, yeah, this is it for Jonin level. Like, I think the Akatsuki for the most part are like comprised of honestly Kage level people, generally speaking. So yeah, like this is so far, like we got the jabronis done with. Like this is the fodder tiers. They're done with for now. So yeah, moving on, we got Suigetsu when he's like next to a large body of water. I guess true liquid form Suigetsu. I mean, it's pretty simple. He was able to like wrestle and hold off Bijou Mode B, which is, yeah, somewhat impressive, but yeah, not much to say, just baseline Bijou level character right there, so that's why he's here. That's really about it. Not much else to say. It was a very brief scuffle, but yeah, like being low end relative to a Bijou, yeah, that gets you into Kage level, even if it's like on the lower end of things. So yeah, moving on, we have got Kisame. Yeah, I gotta put Kisame above Suigetsu, honestly, because first off, well, yeah, he was literally confirmed to be below Kisame by Sasuke himself, and yeah, Suigetsu didn't exactly protest it, so it must be true, I guess. And yeah, I mean, Kisame is just better at everything, honestly. Like when it comes to water style stuff, he's legit one of the best water style users in the series, like bar none, in both skill and potency. So yeah, I don't see, you know, Suigetsu ever beating out Kisame in a battle of like water style. That's just not happening. Obviously after that, all of like Kisame's other abilities and stuff, you know, with Samehada, like in an actual, you know, sword fight, I definitely have Kisame winning that. Now, I mean, in terms of scaling, Kisame is just like a lot stronger than the average like Kakashi level tier people physically. I mean, just a 30% clone of him was able to like absolutely demolish my guy physically. So yeah, dude's really strong, but at the same time, when it comes to like his physical stats, I suppose, he is a bit like hard capped, if you will, by like Bijou level characters, because yeah, I mean, bro really didn't think he could even beat Jiraiya. He didn't think he stood a chance in that fight. Now, whether you think that's true or not, I mean, it's just kind of telling that he himself didn't think he stood much of a chance. Then there's also the fact that like Virgin 2B literally just blew out his chest with a lariat. So yeah, physically speaking, I feel like he is a lot stronger than the, you know, elite Jonin crowd, but like he's still not quite Bijou level physically, but you know, he does make up for it with obviously with Samehada's abilities. He can like continuously weaken his opponent by absorbing their chakra, and his water style jutsu are like low-key insane. Like he was able to beat Roshi, you know, the four tails Jinchuriki, with Samehada and water style. So he can clearly beat Bijou level people if, you know, if he plays his cards right. But yeah, so this is kind of why I'm like gonna put him below Orochimaru, because like Orochimaru I feel like has clearer Kage level scaling, Bijou level scaling, whereas Kisame is like he's on the outskirts of that area, like just so close to it but not quite there, if that makes sense. So yeah, he's very strong, but yeah, I'm gonna have to put him below Orochimaru here. Moving on, we got my boy Kakuzu, the raw durability merchant. So yeah, Kakuzu is He's a character I honestly used to shit on a lot back in the day. Like, to me, he was not a lot different than Hidan in terms of where I scaled him, but like, over the years, I guess I've warmed up to the money merchant a bit, and Kakuzu, honestly, like, his scaling is really good. Like, he was able to tank a hit from Two Tails just straight up without even using his Iron Spear to like amp his durability. So yeah, like, I know it's a bit of a meme, but deadass, this man's raw durability is kind of insane. So yeah, like, in terms of like physical attacks, I feel like it's damn near impossible for anyone in this tier to like actually damage him, at least through his like Iron Spear armor. But you know, a lot of people do have ways around that. Obviously, they're not all like punch and kick merchants. They have ninjutsu and stuff. But yeah, he's very hard to damage unless you have lightning style jutsu to like neutralize his Iron Spear in the same way Kakashi did. But yeah, in terms of his like physical stats, other than durability, obviously, I mean, he's just vaguely Kakashi level. You know, you could argue he's a fair bit stronger, but yeah, like, it's vague. Like, he's just Kakashi level plus whatever you want to call it. But you know, where he really shines, I feel, is his ninjutsu, because like, the thing is, Kakashi's Raikiri, like his lightning blade, is able to damage Kakuzu, so it's very easy to argue that Kakashi's Raikiri is like just deadass Biju level. And the cool thing is, Kakuzu is able to match Kakashi's Raikiri with his own ninjutsu. And then on top of that, this sick man has combination ninjutsu, so he can amp his jutsu even further. So, like, here you've got a guy with Biju level durability. He can amp his durability even further, and he can just casually shit out Biju level jutsu on a whim and essentially combine them in any way he sees fit to kind of have an elemental advantage over his opponent. So, yeah, like, Kakuzu's really, really, really strong. The only reason I don't necessarily have him above people like Orochimaru is like, yeah, again, I feel like Orochimaru has better general scaling, you know, narrative scaling, if you will. And more importantly, I feel like Orochimaru's bag is a bit deeper. Like, I honestly don't see how Kakuzu gets around something like Edo Tensei, for example. Like, Kakuzu is very smart. Like, his intelligence is actually really underrated, but yeah, Orochimaru's physiology, like how hard he is to actually kill, is like, yeah. And on top of that, stuff like Edo Tensei, you know, his summons like Manda, and yeah, I feel like Orochimaru's bag is just a bit too deep. He's really hard to actually put down. I mean, so is Kakuzu, obviously, but you know, unlike him, Orochimaru has, I guess, more varied options in combat. Edo Tensei obviously being the most insane of them. Like, getting around Edo Tensei is like really hard. So yeah, it's one of those things. And yeah, Orochimaru also has Sealing Jutsu, which Kakuzu does not have as far as we know. So yeah, Kakuzu, like, you need to kill him 5 times and all that, but I feel like Orochimaru can definitely do that. And the cool thing is about Orochimaru is he also has all 5 nature transformations as well, so he could theoretically, I guess, counter any of Kakuzu's combinations, you know, with a clone or something. So yeah, I feel like Orochimaru, like, it's closer than I used to think, but yeah, I'd have him above Kakuzu for sure. Okay, moving on, we've got my boy Deidara. So yeah, Deidara is one of those Akatsuki members that are like really, really underrated by the fandom, in my opinion. Like, just very, very slept on, because like, you got this dude, right? One of his like weaker unnamed bombs can knock out the 3 tails. So he has like a random attack that can just knock out a friggin' Biju, right? And then the thing is, like, he still has C2, right, which is even stronger, and then C3 on top of that, which is like just way stronger. Like, just look at the size of that thing. It's way stronger. So he has like this whole freaking scaling chain above Biju level. So I feel like a lot of people like don't even realize like how insane the output of his bombs can actually get. So yeah, in terms of like just sheer AP, yeah, bro's up there. And like, let's not even talk about C0, but like, I'm not even gonna count C0 honestly, because like, unless you get bro like super mad to where he's like just ready to give it all up, right? Just, you know, unless you get him like that mad or that insane, it's probably not gonna come up, right? So yeah, I'm not gonna like take C0 too deeply into consideration, but yeah, like it's still there, right? So yeah, but like, so in terms of AP, yeah, bro's sorted, but like he's also like really underrated in terms of intelligence, I have to say. Like, yeah, like his fight versus Sasuke gets a lot of glaze for that fight in terms of like intelligence and stuff, and rightfully so. He had insane feats in that fight, but people really like overlook you know, the tactical side to Deidara's, you know, fighting ability as well. Like he's pretty smart. And then when you look at his abilities, very annoying too. Like, bro, like flight is a very big advantage, especially when your whole strategy revolves around just carpet bombing your opponents. So the fact that he can fly is a huge plus, and it's honestly mainly the reason I have him above people like Kisame and you know, Kakuzu, because I'm under no delusion that Deidara can beat them in a close to mid-range fight. No way. They would destroy him in a close to mid-range fight, for sure. Like, no doubt about that. But assuming that Deidara can get his strategy, which is to just hop on his bird or his dragon and, you know, fly around and drop massive bombs, if he gets that, you know, strat to work, which he usually does, I can't think of a single time where it hasn't really worked for him. Yeah, he's pretty hard to beat once he gets that little setup going. And I haven't even talked about C4, which honestly, like, very few people on this list can even survive that if he gets it off. So it's very tough to beat. Deidara is like insane if we're looking at him like objectively, and we're not like, oh yeah, he's just one of the weaker Akatsuki or whatever. Like, if we're looking at him from an objective lens and we look at his bag and his feats and all that, I feel like he's up there. He really is up there. I might be glazing right now, and I get it. I get how this, you know, is a bit like unconventional. Not a lot of people rep Deidara this high. Fair enough, you know. And again, in a close to mid-range fight, Kakuzu and Kisame would demolish him, like, no doubt about it. But if he gets his setup going, and he usually does, yeah, I definitely have him above these two. And honestly, like, here's the thing. I don't think either Kisame or Kakuzu are like particularly faster than like heavy Sasuke. I really don't think they are, in my opinion. Like, there's no reason to assume they are. They don't really have the feats that prove they are. Like, at best, they're on that level. But like, honestly, I think Sasuke has more like juice to have him and be even faster than they are, at least a little bit. And Deidara was able to react to his like Shunshin Blitz. He had no issues with that. So like, even if they try to blitz him down, you know, before he gets on his bird or his dragon or whatever, like, if he can dodge Sasuke's body flicker, I think he's fine. You know, I think he'll be able to you know, dodge their melee attacks or whatever, and kind of get his game going, which is just to hop on a bird or a dragon and just drop massive bombs on these guys. Which, yeah, I guess another thing that's worth like getting into is like, okay, can Deidara actually damage Kakuzu through his iron spear, like his earth style armor thing? That's a good question, honestly, but I feel like unless we delve into like no limit fallacy territory here with Kakuzu and assume he can literally survive any physical attack, which is a bit, we're being a bit generous there, let's be honest. Deidara's scaling chain, at least for stuff like C3, is just better in my opinion. Like, it's just a higher scaling chain, it's just better, it has better feats. So unless we just wank the fuck out of Kakuzu here, I'm not seeing it. And I mean, worst comes to worst, man, he can just resort to C4, and Kakuzu can't do much about that one. So yeah, even if we uber wank Kakuzu's durability, I still think Deidara gets the W here. Like, at least more often than not, right? Like, obviously Kisame and Kakuzu could beat Deidara. Like, it's not one of those things where it's like impossible for them to win. Obviously, they could win. It's just like, if they fight 10 times, I think Deidara wins 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. Moving on to the emo Shota boy, Sasori. So yeah, another heavily underrated Akatsuki member in my opinion. I guess before delving into his abilities and stuff, just generally going over his scaling real quick. Deidara literally stated that Sasori is probably stronger than he is, and I believe him because AP aside, Sasori's abilities are insane, but like before we delve into that, I feel like it's worth mentioning that he was able to scuffle against, he was like able to somewhat fight against Orochimaru in the, the Revolutions OVA, which, in case you're wondering why I'm even using that, I go over all that in this video, so if you're curious, you can check that out, I guess. But yeah, he's able to fight somewhat competitively against Orochimaru, which is like super impressive. Orochimaru's probably holding back a bit, but still, it's rather impressive in my opinion. And beyond that, he beat the third Kazekage, who's like the strongest Kazekage ever, barring Gaara, obviously, which puts him above Rasa, who's able to like scuffle and subdue Shukaku. So yeah, just Biju level scaling right there. And actually, interestingly, the third Kazekage's Iron Sand was stated to be the strongest weapon in the Sand Village, which includes Shukaku. Because, like, you know how the Biju are like considered weapons and stuff like that. So the strongest weapon in the sand, I mean, you gotta include Shukaku in that. So the Iron Sand is super impressive and has some insane scaling. So yeah, the Iron Sand has a pretty solid scaling chain above like Biju level and stuff. So yeah, scaling wise, Sasori, pretty solid I'd say, but like the area where he truly shines is his abilities, man. And I mean, honestly, the cool thing about Sasori is he kind of acts like a boss fight in a video game where like you beat one stage of the boss fight and you have to face the more cracked, insane stage later on. And yeah, the cool thing about him is the more you get into him in a fight, like the harder he is to beat. Like you beat the Hiruku puppet, now you gotta deal with the freaking third Kazekage puppet. You beat that, you gotta deal with 100 freaking puppets, including Sasori himself. And yeah, he's really hard to kill just due to his general physiology, and just very tricky. And obviously the poison is insane. He has like a billion ways to administer the poison, which is stupid. Like, he has poison gas, the friggin' Iron Sand is poison, so like he touches you with that, it's over. Yeah, and obviously every single puppet is also carrying poison weapons, so like you have to deal with the Iron Sand, which is like it has insane range and kind of can be formed into a lot of different shapes and sizes, and yeah, it's really, really hard to beat. And then the 100 puppets, I mean, yeah, how do you even beat that? it's tough. Yeah, Sasori's a tough opponent to beat. A tough nut to crack, if you will. The main reason I have Orochimaru above him is generally due to his own insane physiology, just the fact that he's really hard to kill as well, and the fact that he's probably immune to poison. Probably. So, yeah, that's generally the thing that you need if you plan on beating Sasori, which, luckily for Orochimaru, he's got that going for him. So yeah. But as far as the others, I feel like Sasori, just really easy win cons against them. Like, it's hard for me to imagine that they'd be able to avoid literally any contact, especially because they're not particularly careful fighters. Like, Kisame is not a very careful fighter. He gets injured during his fights quite a lot, actually, and same goes for Kakuzu. Like, they are smart and like somewhat shrewd, and they are like, they're not totally reckless, but like, would they be able to avoid all damage? Because like, all Sasori needs is just to touch you and that's it. So yeah, that's mainly why I have him where I got him. Very tough nut to crack, if you will. Moving on, I guess I'm gonna go with Guruguru Zetsu. Very simple, that one. I feel like a lot of people make the mistake of like scaling him above the 5 Kage, like from the war, which I don't know about that one, to be honest, because he did stalemate them and stuff, and he was winning that fight, but the thing is, they were low on chakra and they were kind of clapped from the fight with Madara, so I feel like scaling him above the full power 5 Kage is very questionable, but he does still have insane scaling because he can match Hiruzen, which is like really good given that Hiruzen has all that like strongest Gokage hype going around, which that's still impressive. So that's mainly why. Like, he's essentially like Hashirama light, I guess. So he's very strong. Like, he's very, very strong. His wood release is insane. Like, second to only Hashirama, really. So and he also has the general white Zetsu isms. He can absorb chakra, he can absorb jutsu, all that jazz, and wood release obviously weakens its opponents and absorbs their attacks as well. So he's pretty cracked, I'd say. I feel like this placement is rather fair for him. Wouldn't put him above Orochimaru, honestly, because he did fight Edo Hiruzen, and like, Orochimaru's more so a rival to a live Hiruzen. I understand it's a marginal difference, but still, I'd say Orochimaru probably edges him out in that fight, most likely. So that's I feel like that's a fair place for him. Moving on, my boy Taka Sasuke. So I feel like a fair place for this version of Sasuke is right around here. Now, the thing about him is he's kind of hard to place concretely because he is weaker than his heavy self, given that he was like still recovering from his injuries against Itachi and stuff, but I don't feel like he'd be too weakened. Like, he was still able to fight against Killer B and stuff. He was getting his shit lit up, obviously, but like, still there's some low-end relativity there, so he's not like completely just fodder tier, right? But like, the main reason he's this high is he's got the Mangekyo Sharingan, man. Like, Amaterasu is insane. Like, if he gets that off against pretty much any of these guys, it's Gojover, if you will. And obviously Mangekyo Sharingan Genjutsu is also pretty cracked. So like, for example, against Deidara, right? Like, it would more or less be a repeat of their fight. He doesn't have the curse mark, which is it's a big nerf, but the Mangekyo Sharingan, I feel, makes up for it, and he more or less knows all of Deidara's tricks. So I feel like he'd have an easier time with that fight the second time around. And again, like, Amaterasu, instant GG. Mangekyo Sharingan Genjutsu, instant GG. So him versus Sasori is actually, funnily enough, a real big mismatch, because Sasuke, like, low-key hard counters him. The thing is, the Iron Sand does have a big weakness, which is lightning release, and that's like half of Sasuke's bag. So it's a big issue. So like, essentially, Sasori's biggest ability, right, like his strongest ability, arguably, Sasuke has a massive counter for. So in addition to that, he would also be able to see where Sasori's real body is, using the Sharingan. He'd be able to cut the strings using the, Kusanagi blade. So like, it's kind of funny, because like, I do think Sasori is like generally speaking stronger than this version of Sasuke, like from a pure scaling perspective, but like Sasuke legit just fucking hard counters him, man. The Sharingan will be able to help him like dodge all the Danmaku style attacks coming at him from all directions. Yeah, like obviously Sasori can win again. It's one of those things where he only needs to graze Sasuke once and it's over, but I feel like Sasuke has way too many advantages in that fight. Like lightning release, essentially cucking the Iron Sand is a huge one. Sasuke being able to see Sasori's real body and like target his actual heart, maybe with a Chidori Senbon or something. Yeah, huge advantage. So yeah, and against like Kakuzu again, similar deal honestly, because he can counter his Iron Spear armor using the Chidori. Honestly, like Kisame and Kakuzu probably give him more of a challenge than like Sasori and Deidara, which is this is one of those things, like it's very matchup based. Just because you're like above a certain person doesn't mean you're above like everyone else. Like it's one of those things where it's very 50-50 in this tier, but yeah, I feel like this is a good placement for Sasuke in my opinion. Moving on, we have got Sharky Shark Boy Kisame. Yeah, Samehada Fusion Kisame is I mean, it's fucking insane, man. That's all I gotta say. Like, to be fair, it does depend on like how much chakra he'd absorb, but like I'm gonna use like his B fight version as like a baseline, or like I guess the only version we can actually judge, given it's the only version of the form we have seen. So yeah, using that version, it cracked. I mean, he was literally gonna kill B in 8 Tails. He absorbed essentially all of his chakra. He blitzed the fuck out of B. I mean, just like the whole strat behind this version of Kisame is low-key just diabolical. Creating a freaking mountain-sized water style, trapping your opponent in it where they can't breathe, they can't move as well, and you can. You just like, you have the speed advantage obviously because Kisame is like in his element, and yeah, he just touches you and drains your chakra, and that's it. You can't do anything. You can't escape the bubble. You can't escape Kisame. It's crazy. It's a pretty insane strat. Like, this version of Kisame is cracked. So yeah, if Sharky Boy gets his strat, going, he's very hard to beat. Like, he's very hard to beat. So yeah, I got him here because destroying Killer Bee the way he did, that's crazy impressive in my eyes. So yeah, that's where I got him. I feel like it's pretty fair. Moving on, and yeah, this next one, you guys might not like it, but it is what it is. Konan, man, look, here's the thing. I know you guys are mad. I know you're mad, but like, just hear me out. Konan, bro, I'm really pressed about this one because like I think she is mad underrated. Like, I never see her this high, and yeah, I mean, okay, I might be rustling a few feathers here, but I genuinely believe this. I think she is insanely cracked. Like, I guess starting off, she can just straight up tank a fire style from Jiraiya, just like straight up, just Sanin level durability casually. And like, it's not even a punch or something, it's a freaking ninjutsu. So, just right off the bat, crazy durability. Then you look at her output, and like, she can mortally wound Obito. Like, fuck him up. And I mean, this, like, this might sound crazy, but like, she did more damage than Minato's Rasengan. Like, I'm not saying she's above Minato, but like, just let that one sink in for a minute. It's insane. Her AP with like her explosives and stuff is bananas, right? And like, for the people who harp on the whole, oh yeah, she's only good with prep time thing, I don't buy that shit. Like, first off, it's never stated that like the 600 billion jutsu, thing actually requires prep time. That's never actually stated anywhere. But like, let me humor the idea, right? Like, if we say she spent an entire freaking year, just a whole year non-stop, preparing that little trap for Obito, right? Which is like ludicrous. It's a ludicrous premise, but let's run with it for a minute. A whole year, right? If she did that for a whole year, non-stop, she would still be outputting 19,000 papers per second, dude. So like, at freaking, like, this is an insane, like, insanely stupid premise, but like, even then, nearly 20,000 papers per second. I'm just saying, that's way more than what she used to injure Obito, right? Like, way more. So yeah, man, like, even if we're being ridiculously, like, just pedantic about this, she's still cracked. I'm sorry, she is. And by the way, her controlling all these papers, like, at once, is still an insane feat. Like, given the amount of water she split, that's still insane lifting strength with her papers. So anyone she gets a hold of, like, she's low-key putting them in an arm lock, man. Like, she's crazy strong. You add to that flight, you add to that her, like, relentless explosion freaking strategy. Yeah, you add to that the fact that she's damn near, well, not impossible, but like, she's pretty hard to damage given just the way her jutsu works. She's practically intangible. You know, putting all that into account, I cannot in good conscience put her lower than this. She is insanely underrated. Oh yeah, also she beats Sasori, just saying. So yeah, Konan, man, my queen, put some respect on her name. She is mad underrated. Moving on, I guess the first Edo Tensei we got over here is Edo Deidara, and yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing about Edo Deidara that makes him kind of insane is the fact that he can just straight up use C0 essentially infinitely, right? Like, he can just blow himself up with C0 and then just come back because he's an Edo Tensei. So it's cheese, I will admit it is cheese, but it's also technically true. So given the insanity of that and the fact that he's an Edo Tensei, and like, none of these guys here really necessarily have an answer to an Edo Tensei, like, except maybe Orochimaru, who probably has sealing jutsu, probably, but still, like, yeah, the strat is too insane and too funny for me not to put Deidara this high, so I'm gonna run with the meme, I'm sorry, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, the next tier is essentially just the holy trinity of the Akatsuki. Like, not much of a spoiler at this point. Y'all know how it is. It's Itachi, it's Obito, it's Nagato, the strongest three members. I feel like that's a pretty, you know, pretty tame take. I feel like everybody agrees with the notion that they are, generally speaking, the top three, the three big dogs, the strongest members. But like, how they compare against each other, if I'm being completely honest, it's one of those things I flip-flop on all the time. Like, I change my mind on this all the time. They have so many forms, so many variables go into these fights. In my opinion, a lot of these fights, like between these three, could go either way, because like, you're dealing with people who are so freaking strong and so freaking skilled and so freaking haxed. Most importantly, like, their bag is bananas, right? It's kind of hard to like have concrete stances for the most part, but yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. But like, just know that if you disagree with a certain take, you know, regarding the three I'm about to, you know, scale, Itachi, Obito, Nagato, and their respective forms, if you disagree with my takes on that, just know that it's like, that's fine, I get it. Like, it's very debatable, it's very controversial. And in my opinion, like, in reality, the fights could go either way for the most part. So yeah. But yeah, I guess starting things off, we already have Itachi over here, who's just like concretely above the lower tier in my opinion, just scaling wise, skill wise, intelligence wise, hacks wise, just everything bundled together puts him that high in my opinion. So the first person I'm gonna add here is, I guess, alive Nagato. And alive Nagato below Itachi might rub some people the wrong way, but like, it's mainly because of the fact that he's crippled. He has no mobility whatsoever, so while he does have insane moves and like insane output and what have you, like he's very strong obviously, but at the end of the day he's just a sitting duck. And I guess someone like Itachi, who can just kill you with so many abilities of his, like, he's gonna get him sooner or later. So yeah, dude literally cannot move. That it's a huge nerf. Yeah, he's strong, he's got hacks, but ultimately, I can't put him much higher than this, given he's just a sitting duck. So yeah. That being said though, like, Nagato is still insane. Next up we got Orange Mask Obito. So yeah, Obito and Itachi, they have so many like supporting narratives that put them, close to each other. They were stated to be like, they viewed each other as like threats in the Itachi novel. And this holds true in the manga too. Like, Obito, he literally just spells it out. Like, he does say that he views Itachi as a threat. He views Itachi as an eyesore, as someone who could potentially like kill him. And he held off on attacking Konan until he died, particularly because he viewed him as a sort of threat, someone not to cross. If you don't have to, and he didn't have to, he could just ride it out and wait until he died. Meaning that, Obito does not view Itachi as like some easy fight. So what presses me about this, right, is that Itachi has come to a point where he's become actually kind of underrated, if I'm being honest. He used to be wanked, I will admit that, but like, it's come to a point where he's generally downplayed, if anything, at this point in time. And yeah, like, I've seen so many people think that Obito can just like shit stomp Itachi. That, like, Obito himself does not believe that. Like, he doesn't even, the man himself doesn't think so. And more interesting, the Kishimoto himself doesn't think so. Like, I don't know if y'all are aware, but like, Kishimoto has extensively worked on the movie Road to Ninja. And that movie literally includes a scene where Itachi pulls up on him, right? And he's like, oh yeah, the man who can burn fire itself. You're a nuisance as always. And he literally just fucking runs away. Like, the lengths Obito will go to not fight Itachi are like, they're telling, right? So, to me, at bare minimum, I feel like Itachi and Obito are kind of neck and neck, right? Like, they're pretty comparable. They're on the same level. The fight could go either way. I do generally favor Itachi, ever so slightly, right? Because yes, Obito is Obito, right? Like, Kamui is Kamui. He has Izanagi as well. Like, Obito is insane. I don't think I need to tell you all that. But that being said, I do think Itachi could catch him with Amaterasu. Like, I think that possibility is there, because I am a believer in Obito actually needing Izanagi to survive Amaterasu, not quite Kamui. I don't think Kamui, is a legit counter to Amaterasu, in my opinion, obviously. But yeah, I could go into that whole thing in a separate video if y'all are interested. But yeah, I do favor Itachi ever so slightly, and I do think he is smart enough, skilled enough, and hacked enough to catch Obito with something, right? Like, I'm not sure exactly what that something is, but like, if I hedged my bets, if I, put the house up, I'd put it on Itachi, right? That's just me. But yeah, moving on. Pain, right? Pain. Thing about Pain is, he's a very tough character to scale because there's so many variables, that go into Pain. Like, how many of the bodies are active at a certain time, because the less bodies there are, the more chakra Nagato can place into the remaining bodies, so they get stronger, then there's also the distance the bodies are from Nagato himself, because, he sends his chakra to them as like signals. So the closer you are to the source, the stronger it is. So there's just so many factors and so many variables that go into scaling pain. So to avoid the headache of all that, I'm just gonna streamline it. I'm gonna scale pain when he's in Konoha and pain when he's in the Rain Village, just to streamline it. For both, I'm gonna just assume pain is at his peak condition when he's at those particular locations. So obviously pain in the Rain Village is stronger than pain in Konoha, just due to the simple fact that he's a lot closer to Nagato in the Rain Village. So the whole signal shenanigans, Nagato's just able to send stronger signals because pain is, closer to the source. So yeah, pain in the rain is a lot stronger, and he does have the advantage of the terrain as well. It just favors him. He knows it well, all that jazz. So fighting pain while blind to his abilities, it's pretty tough. Everyone knows that. Obito does know pain's abilities. Itachi does not, which, adds a little interesting twist to things. But at the same time, we did see glimpses in the war arc where Itachi just almost immediately and intuitively just figured out a lot of his abilities just by observing him. Like, the guy's intelligence is insane. He's like in serious contention for the smartest character in the verse. So, yeah. That being said, figuring out Pain's abilities and ways to counter him does take time. And, Itachi, at least when he's sick, he doesn't necessarily have the luxury of that time, because, he's dying. So, while his stamina is a lot better than people think, as I mentioned in this video right here, which you could check out, it is very good, but I don't think Sick Itachi can beat Pain. He could, obviously. That's not right. He could beat him, but it would be very, very, very tough. And yeah, again, if they fought 10 times, I wouldn't put I don't think Itachi would beat him more often than not. So yeah, as far as that goes, I think Itachi, when he's sick, likely slots below Pain a little bit, just due to the time limit involved. However, Prime Itachi, when he's not sick, which, I think essentially Itachi's peak was around the Uchiha massacre and after that, a little bit after that, when he joined the Akatsuki, because that's when we know he was definitely not sick. And yeah, he still has his Orochimaru clap scaling and all that, so he's very strong, and he has all his hacks and what have you. So for me, this is as good as Itachi gets, right? Uchiha massacre timeline Itachi, that's around his best, right? So that version, in my opinion, could likely beat Konoha Pain, right? I feel pretty comfortably, actually, because this is a weaker Pain, significantly so, actually. And unless he pulls out some crazy move like Chibok Tensei or something like that, I feel Itachi would pick apart the bodies one by one quickly enough to where he can dispatch Pain. Same goes for Obito, honestly, especially because Obito does have prior knowledge of the Rinnegan's abilities, which is a huge, huge advantage. So yeah, I feel they both likely slot above Pain in Konoha. Now, Pain in the Rain Village, different story, because he's a lot stronger, and more importantly, he has the advantage of the terrain on his side. But still, honestly, this is where the 50-50 stuff comes into play, because yeah, it really could go either way here. Pain and Itachi and Obito at their respective peaks, I feel those are very, very close fights. But ultimately, I feel Pain might edge them out a little bit, because Obito doesn't actually, in my opinion, have a ton of win conditions against Pain. like, other than just straight up going to Nagato and killing him, which I guess is an option if we're being real, but like, let's ignore that for the sake of the argument. Against Pain, like, okay, so he pulls a path or two into the freaking, into the Kamui dimension. Cool. The thing is, Nagato can just summon them back, or like the animal path can summon them back. So it's not really much of a win con. I mean, I guess you could target the animal path, but then Nagato just summons it back. Like, it's no big deal. So, yeah, just not much of a win con there. And a lot of Pain's jutsu, like Shinra Tensei, for example, just, yeah. If Obito comes into attack and Pain catches him with that, it's Gojo over, because that shit can casually one-shot Biju level characters while far from full output. So, yeah, just... I'm low-key favoring Pain a little bit here, but at the same time, Itachi at his peak, I think, could probably figure out the abilities quickly enough to where he could definitely pull something there, and he has better win cons than Obito, I feel like, because his offensive abilities are better, like Tsukuyomi, instant GG for any path caught in it. Amaterasu, same deal, instant GG for any path caught in it. Totsuka Blade, instant GG for any path caught in it. Like, it's one of those things where he has so many one-tap GG options, just one-shot abilities. Yeah, so, yeah, at the risk of sounding like an Itachi Glazer, which I am a little bit, but I gotta put Itachi here, man. Like, he's too smart, he's too haxed. Yeah. Now, moving on to Sick Itachi, honestly, I'd still put him above Nagato, just because, like, he still has good enough stamina and good enough intelligence to catch a cripple, immobile Nagato with something. Like, he's really not as bad as people claim. And again, check out the video I made on Itachi's stamina if you don't believe me. But yeah. Moving on, I guess, to Edo Nagato. Now, the thing about Edo Nagato is he has a lot more leeway than a live Nagato, given he can just survive attacks due to like his Edo physiology. So like it's not a case where you can just catch him with something and then he's dead. Like, a live Nagato was caught by friggin' like a nerfed out of his prime Hanzo using friggin' explosive tags. So like, he doesn't have the best scaling necessarily. Edo Nagato, on the other hand, he was pulling up on friggin' KCM Naruto and Killer B. He made them look silly, man. Like, he made them look amateurish. It was bad. So he has better scaling, right? And he's not quite as nerfed. Like, he was able to just catch KCM Naruto off guard, like, quite casually. And he was killing him. So I feel like the mobility issue, while still there, is a lot better in Edo Nagato's case, and he has a bit more leeway, because like, it's not a case where you catch him with something and then he's dead. No, he can survive a lot more due to his Edo physiology. So he definitely scales higher. Like, bare minimum, you gotta put him here. But I don't know, man. Like, at the same time, right? Like, in my opinion, Nagato, while stronger than Pain, he's a lot less tricky in combat, because like, Pain, the whole thing where you gotta fight 6 individual bodies is way more annoying, in my opinion, than fighting a singular opponent like Nagato, who also doesn't really have like, he just doesn't have the best mobility, right? So he's not quite as much of a sitting duck as his like alive self, but still, like, not exactly a speedster, if you will. So still a bit of a sitting duck, right? So while he is insanely strong, I still think these three might just, edge him out a bit, in my opinion. I don't know. Yeah. You know what? Actually, I'm just gonna put him above Pain, because yeah, like, he's still way stronger than Pain, so yeah, it feels iffy putting him below him, even if he is a less tricky opponent, right? But like, still, he's insanely powerful. He has insanely high output jutsu like Shinra Tensei and Chibok Tensei, and at the end of the day, if he catches you with like the human path or the Naraka path or something like that, that's still crazy. And honestly, the lack of bodies isn't quite as bad because he can supplement that with his summons, which are also insanely powerful in their own right. Like, there are just a bunch of Biju level summons with crazy abilities that do supplement his visions, like the Paths of Pain. So I guess, yeah, on second thought, yeah, Edo Nagato is still kind of cracked. But yeah, given what this man right here did to him, right? Yeah, I still have Itachi above him. Just how quickly he figured out how to dispatch of Nagato and how quickly he actually did it. Yeah, and I know people say, yeah, but he had Naruto and B on his side. And, yeah, sure, he did. But at the end of the day, like, Itachi's the one who saved him from Nagato. Like, he's the one who quickly and, like, effortlessly just dispatched of him. And in my opinion, like, if it comes to Chibok Tensei, yeah, like, he could just, instead of using one Yasaka beat attack, he could just spam a bunch in succession. In my opinion, it's really no big deal. Like, you just spam, Yasaka beads until it explodes. Like, he's not limited to one Yasaka bead. So, yeah, in my opinion, he will figure out the weakness and he'll just destroy it before it forms. In my opinion, Itachi above Nagato, above Pain is it's obviously debatable, very debatable. Let me reiterate that, but I got Itachi above him. Like, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Now, moving on to, I guess, War Arc Obito. So, I'm doing two versions of him, like of White Mask Obito, if you will. One where he's got the Biju / Jinchuriki, and one where it's just him, like just solo, right? And in my opinion, it's quite different. Like, it's quite distinct, because with the Biju, yeah, like 7 Biju who can pull their chakra to make like ginormous Biju bombs and stuff like that. And obviously the Jinchuriki's like own abilities and what have you. Yeah, it's pretty insane, pretty tough to beat. I don't think anyone like on this list outside of Juubito obviously could beat that. So yeah, he's definitely the pinnacle of this tier in my opinion. Like, Obito with the Biju, that's crazy. That's fucking insane. Now, Obito without, honestly, like, it's one of those things where I feel like him versus Edo Itachi is kind of debatable, because and this might sound crazy, but like, I don't think he's too different from his Orange Mask version. Like, I don't feel like he actually got that much out of his Rinnegan as far as like an actual amp. Like, first off, he doesn't even use the Rinnegan's abilities, so the hack side of things, which would make a difference obviously, is kind of not there. Like, he just doesn't use them all that much in character. So you could like incorporate them. Like, I suppose a bloodlusted Rinnegan Obito would definitely be above Itachi, but like in character, he just doesn't use these abilities. And like, we have no idea with like the proficiency with which he would even be able to use them, hypothetically, right? So yeah, like, and as far as a physical amp, I don't see him getting that big of an amp out of them. Like, Orange Mask Obito is like vaguely, right? Like, vaguely a Minato level fighter, right? Like, just vaguely. He's not quite Minato tier, but like, he's on the precipice of that. He's close. So is KCM Naruto, right? Like, and Obito, like, Rinnegan Obito isn't really like a lot stronger than KCM Naruto. He's right on that level. So whatever amp he actually received is pretty minuscule at the end of the day. So this is kind of why I'm like, Itachi with infinite stamina, right? Like, just he wouldn't go blind. He can't be killed, essentially. Like, he could possibly catch Obito or something. That's all I'm saying. And honestly, like, pulling him into the Kamui dimension, like, that would be a valid win con if we're talking about a live Itachi, because he could just leave him there to starve, right? Like, he'd just wait him out, right? it would like be a legit BFR strategy, which is valid. But like I guess Edo Itachi, he wouldn't die from being stranded in the Kamui dimension. And once Obito goes in there to like I guess try and kill him or whatever, then he doesn't have Kamui's intangibility, and at which point, in my opinion, Itachi would destroy him. Like without Kamui's intangibility, like honestly, Itachi just I don't want to say he dicks him, but it's close enough to that. Because like he has the Totsuka blade, he has Amaterasu, and without intangibility, really Obito has no out, he has no counters. I guess he could absorb them, hypothetically, but I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like Obito's win cons against Edo Itachi are kind of weak, right? Like, but still, he could win. He could definitely win. It's not one-sided by any means, but like I feel like they're kind of neck and neck, right? Like it's very debatable in my opinion. So yeah, last but certainly not least, this man right here. Money amped Kakuzu. Man, he is the strongest Akatsuki member, bar none. I mean, you got what? You got raw durability. You got, I mean, a man seeking his bag, right? A man going after his bag is an unbeatable man. You cannot beat a man who's after his bag. So, but yeah, all memes aside, yeah, this is about it. I know it's a bit like unconventional. It's different from a lot of the lists out there, and it's not necessarily to be controversial for the sake of it. I just generally view things a lot differently from people, you know, as you can clearly see, for better or worse. But yeah, these are just my genuine thoughts, and this is a video that I could very well redo down the line, you know, because honestly, my opinions on this, like many of you, I imagine, flip-flop all the time. I change my mind on these rankings all the time. So, you know, there could be a follow-up to this down the road. And yeah, if you guys have stuck around through these rambles, you know, this long, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for sticking out this long. And yeah, if you're like interested in maybe hearing my thoughts about like a specific debate between any of these characters, you know, let me know in the comment section down below, and I guess let me know what you thought of this list. Did I cook? Did I burn the kitchen? You know, let me know your thoughts down below, and yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. That's it. See ya.
Bye bye.